So how much is that sovereignty at risk? Will a compromise really put an end to this conflict? Or will it make Ukraine more vulnerable in Moscow's eyes? To understand this, I spoke to two individuals with a deep understanding of Ukrainian policies and politics. Volodymyr Solohub, he's an independent journalist based here in Kiev, and Katharine Quinn-Judge, an analyst working for Ukraine at the International Crisis Group. Here's what they told me earlier today. I'll start with you, Katharine. The Russia-Belarus exercises have begun at the border, the 10-day-long exercise. The White House has called this move escalatory, and there are apprehensions that Moscow is going to use this as a pretext or as an opportunity to start some sort of an incursion. What's your assessment?
Well, my assessment is I can say what I've heard from people who are well placed to know. I do, in fact, have contacts in, security, in intelligence, who say that it is likely that an invasion would begin as the Olympics are wrapping up, probably from the north. On the other hand, I think, again, as an analyst, my take is just that it is still incredibly hard to see what Russia could possibly gain in the long run, and how the Putin regime could hope to survive or to maintain its strength if it took such a step.
Volodymyr, do you think that diplomacy is delivering at any level? Today we saw a joint press conference between the foreign ministers of Russia and the UK, and they indulged in what can be best described as a war of words.
Well, diplomacy is actually the only thing which the entire world is hoping that can deter Russian President Putin. Obviously, Ukraine cannot face off Russia militarily. It's much smaller, much weaker army, even though it is very prepared to defend its borders. And obviously, nobody else will send their troops here to Ukraine to fight with Russia. So right now, diplomacy is our only option.
We hear daily headlines of the kind of military and financial support that Ukraine's partners are offering it. Do you think that the Ukrainian forces stand a chance in case of a Russian invasion with all of the support that they're getting from their allies?
No, I don't think that they stand a chance. And I think that, in fact, I would go further and say that some of this talk of, talking up how prepared the Ukrainians are to defend themselves and sort of what a noble battle they'll wage, while in some cases well-intentioned, is also potentially misleading, in that there is no way that Ukraine could come out of this well. You could even argue that some of the military support that Ukraine is getting could simply end up prolonging whatever misery could arise from an invasion. So no, there's no way this goes well for Ukraine. So I just want to reiterate what my colleague said, that diplomacy it's the only option, right?
And when you talk about diplomacy, I think the Europeans are once again pushing a lot for the Minsk Accord. But we know that the Minsk Accord has not been able to deliver peace. Can we still call it the best bet at peace?
Well, I think this is the only option to which Russia has signed and which Russia has agreed to fulfill. Unfortunately, Russia is not doing their part on the Minsk agreements. If we have a new deal, if we have another deal, that's another question. But this is the only thing which we have to work with right now, and that's what the diplomats are trying to get their best out of at this stage.
Would you say, given all of this, the way talks are progressing, Russia is dictating the terms of this negotiation?
Well, Russia is standing firm on what they want, and what they want is to prevent NATO from expanding further to the east, namely to Ukraine, to cut Ukraine any chance in the future to joining NATO. And whatever other promises or whatever other agreements the European Union, the Americans, and the UK are trying to offer Russia, are trying to offer to President Putin, they're not ready to accept these terms.
From how I understand this crisis, I think Europe's first priority is securing its gas supplies. And those are concerns that have been expressed repeatedly by European leaders, including those in France and Germany. Do you fear that if there is a compromise, it would come at Ukraine's expense?
The fact is that I think that whatever happens, whether there's a compromise or whether there isn't a compromise, it's going to hurt Ukraine to some degree. But I would reiterate that seeking a compromise that is in some ways politically disappointing to Ukraine is a lot better than just going straight into war because diplomacy is considered to be for the weak.
If I may, I would like to add to what my colleague said. We have to understand that Russia's supplies of gas to the European Union is a two-way street. It's not that the European Union is getting this gas for free. If they cut off the gas, Russia will get.
They're not ready to take that risk, it seems.
Russia is ready to. Russia will get cut off from the cash flow, and again, like.
Do you think the Europeans are ready to take that risk?
I don't think they're really ready to take the risk, but at the same time, they understand that Russia also needs their cash.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Katharine, Volodymyr. Thanks.
Thank you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.